G'day and welcome to DuckZorly Gaming and our State of the Game edition for Farming Simulator 19. This video will comprise details and discussion in relation to where we think the game is at, where it has been and where it has come from in the last 12 months or so, and where we think it will go in the future until we get the next release of Farming Simulator, most likely Farming Simulator 21, as in 2021. Please be aware, all opinions and ideas expressed in this video are either of my own or are the opinions of others that are part of the DuckZorly gaming community or from other social media platforms around the internet. While we respect your personal opinions, we ask that you also respect ours, and any flagrant abuse will not be tolerated and will be deleted immediately. Let's quickly reflect on the actual release of the game, which is just about 12 months ago now. And no one could actually say that the release of the game was anywhere near perfect. In fact, it probably wasn't anywhere near above average. The game release was very, very poor on many aspects. The game was not finished. There were aspects of the game that should have been included in the finished product that weren't. And I believe myself that this was basically due to the fact that the publisher, Focus Entertainment, were putting the pressure on Giants to make sure the game was released on time. Now, one of the biggest problems with the game upon release was the steering wheel and controller support natively in the game. Coming from Farming Simulator 17, where all this support was previously in the game, it really should not have been that hard for Giants to get this right. Unfortunately, not only did they not get it right, it took them a long time and a multiple of patches, I think it was actually 3 in the end, to get all the common wheels and controllers supported correctly. Yes, there were some people that got a bit of a workaround and got them working, but it was not good enough considering all those wheels were currently supported in their previous iteration of the game, being Farming Simulator 17. Further to that, there were lots of issues in relation to many of the features of the game that they were actually hanging their hat on and publicising really well. Most notably was the placeable system, in which case that they were harking about the fact that with Farming Simulator 19, we could place our farm entities down and create our own farm wherever we wanted to. Unfortunately, the terrain deformation that came with that was absolutely ludicrous. You would place a house down, not only would it cost you an extraordinary amount of money to actually do all the land transformation that you needed, but it also would make these very jagged and square areas around the building. Now, an integral part of this that was actually missing was the terrain deformation tool. Now, it took some time for this to be released by Giants, and I really do think, and they will never come out and actually publicise this and actually own up to it, but I really do think that this just was not ready upon release of the game, and they decided to take the risk and ship it without it. I think that was very poor on Giants' form. I think it did affect them and their reputation upon release of the game. Once that tool was released, though, it made things a hell of a lot better. And the game then started to come into its own in relation to the viable variable gameplay that was available by using these placeable farming aspects. So apart from the terrain deformation and the placeable farming aspects, was Farming Simulator 19 such a big step up from Farming Simulator 17? Well, no, not really. They harked also about the change in the graphics and how everything looked, and it was a lot better looking quality. And yes, while this may be true with some of the textures and that, how they changed the textures and all that sort of stuff and gave us a more polished look, the game itself became a lot more what many people refer to as apocalyptic look. The colorization and the flaring and all that sort of stuff in the game was ridiculous. And it still is. It's not much better. Thankfully, as of this point in time, we're talking August of 2019, Seasons is now out, and the modifications the Seasons crew have done with the Seasons mod brings that colorization back a little bit, and it actually looks much better. Unfortunately, though, with the actual original release and without Seasons, and without any other shading textures applied to the game, it is very poor looking. It's cartoonish, it's just oversaturated, it just doesn't look right. Yes, the models are fantastic. The texturing, the metallic look and the wear and all that sort of stuff. Yep, great, looks really good. But the game itself looks very poor. Coupled with that as well, one of the really big irritating features with this game, as far as I am concerned, is when you are playing on anything but the 1x speed, the shadows of all the plants and all the buildings becomes very jittery, especially to the point when you're playing anything above 5x, you just can't look at it. It just looks stupid and it's just very, very poor. I don't recall the shadows being anywhere near like that in Farming Simulator 17, and there must have been some way they could actually have smoothed that out and make that look better. But it is abominable the way the shadows react in Farming Simulator 19. And for someone that's, like, particularly at the moment, playing 12-day or 24-day seasons, always playing at 5x or 15x speed, the shadows just take away from the game. It really looks poor, and it was very, very poorly done on Giant's behalf. Otherwise, the actual game release wasn't too bad, but there's nothing new in the game that's really brought anything outstanding. Yes, okay, we've already talked about the placeables. What else did they bring to the game? Well, they brought one new crop, oat. Yay. Yeah, good work, Giants. You've brought a new crop. What else did they bring? They brought horses. I mean, seriously, what the hell were you guys thinking? What has horses done for the genre of Farming Simulator? Yes, okay, it's a nice little feature. Some people like to ride around on their little ponies around the farm. Yeah, great. What I think it is I think it's actually the marketing department of Focus has got in the ear of Giants and said, hey, look, we need to get lots of little girls playing this game. We need another core demographic to join and play the game and make more money and sell more games. So let's add horses in. So Giants have gone, sure, we'll add horses in. So we've added horses in. What are the horses useful for? You put the horses in, you take them for a bit of a ride, and then you sell them. Yay. Yeah, really good inclusion for a farm. Why can't we have things like using the horses for pulling horse-drawn carts? Why can't we have the horses being used for something different like, oh God, I don't know. Horses shouldn't be in the game. I think it's a waste of time. I really do. If you have used that to try and get the core demographic and get some girls playing the game, and I'm not being sexist, I'm just being a realist here. I mean, yes, there are some blokes that like to ride a horse and like the look of horses. I understand that. But I really think the main reason for having horses in Farming Simulator 19 is not because it's good gameplay, it's because they want to make more money by selling it to boys and girls who want to play with their horses on a farm. I think that's the core part of it. What else does it bring? It doesn't bring anything else to the game. Really. I mean, come on. There's no show jumping. Yes, there's a show jumping little area and you can jump the horse. But it's not as if you can actually go off to a show jumping competition and win any more money or anything else like that, or train a particular horse to be good at show jumping or at their cross-country type courses or any other stuff, or dressage, whatever, all right? The horses really are just a fluff piece that they've added into the game, and that's all it is. What they could have done is they could have gone a bit further, and they could have actually got things like improved the cows and the sheep and the pigs by having a slaughterhouse. Why can't we have cows and sheep and pigs that are used to not only produce just milk and wool in relation to the sheep and the cows, but also for meat? Let's get real. The reality of it is many, many farmers around the world produce their sheep, produce their beef for exactly that, for meat. Same with the pigs. What the hell is the use of the pigs at the moment in the game? We buy the pigs, we feed the pigs, and then we sell the pigs. Yeah, okay, inherently we're saying we're selling them off. They're going to a slaughterhouse. We know that. Again, I think the reason for not having this detail in the game is the fact that Giants and Focus are scared. What are they scared of? They're scared of groups like PETA. PETA. The ones that are going to jump on the little bandwagon and say, oh, you can't do that. Animals have feelings too. All that sort of stuff. You know what? Grab a grip of reality. We're humans. They are animals. They are on this earth. Yes, they may have feelings and all that sort of stuff, but they are on this earth basically to support and sustain human life. Okay? Yep, look, I know I'm going to get some people come back at me and say, oh, you can't do that. We're vegans. We're this, we're that. Good on you. That's your choice. The end of the day is we need to eat meat as an organism to support our body and our growth. What meat do we eat? Sheep, beef, pork, goat, horses, whatever. Yes, people do eat horses. I'll go to there later. But there's more they could have done with this aspect of the game instead of bringing in the horses, which is just a fluff piece. And that's one of the things that irritates me with this game. They didn't actually go that extra mile. Now, we've already mentioned the fact they brought in one crop being oats, and that was to support the horses. Yay, you must have thought really long and hard, Giants, about bringing out that new crop. Why couldn't you have taken a leaf out of the book of your competitor at the time, Pure Farming? Yes, they had their own problems upon release, but you know what? On reflection now, I don't think Pure Farming had anywhere near the same problems upon release as what Giants has had with Farming Simulator 19's release. But people are very quick to knock Pure Farming. They weren't so quick to knock Farming Simulator 19. Although then again, that's probably not necessarily true either. But the big difference with Pure Farming is they had orchards. They had a big variation in the type of farming you can do. Not necessarily with the animals, but certainly with crops. They had rice crops. They've got coffee crops. They've got irrigation. All this sort of stuff that Giants could not do. How many iterations are we into it now, Giants? Pull your finger out. Start actually developing a game that has some variable and flexible gameplay elements to it. Not just fluff pieces. Why couldn't you put orchards in there? It's not hard. They're trees with little round bits on it, which are yellow or green or red or whatever. Why couldn't you put irrigation in? Instead of putting this silly aspect of lime in, which is overpriced, it's stupid. Yes, they do use it. But we would have been far better having irrigation. All the crops, most crops, need water. We haven't got that in the game. Didn't have it in 15, didn't have it in 17, haven't got it in 19. What are you guys doing? I mean, seriously, why can't you add water into the game and have irrigation? Some of our modders can do that. GTX, a good friend of ours, he's put a mod out with an orchard, and you have to fill it up with water, and it waters the trees every hour. Not that hard, guys, really. Irrigation is an integral part of your farming. It's an integral part of animals and crops. Bring it into the game. If it's not in Farming Simulator 21, then it just shows that they're not serious about this game and the realism levels in the fact of actually being a simulation game. I'll get back onto that a little bit later. So the variation of crops and all that sort of stuff, in my opinion, was nowhere near good enough. There is much, much, much room for improvement. Will they choose to do it? Only time will tell. But I would like to think they will. If not, then it leaves the door open for someone else to come in. Maybe Pure Farming too. I mean, who knows? But resting on your laurels and just keeping what you've got is not good enough. You had an opportunity, Giants. You missed it. You stuffed up. You should have put more variation in relation to the crops and everything else that we're able to use within the game. Okay, so we've just reviewed very broadly the release of the game and all that sort of stuff. And that's okay. Let's move on a little bit now, and we'll talk about the UI. Now, I do believe the UI that they've brought into Farming Simulator 19 is a great improvement on the UI from Farming Simulator 17, which is what you'd expect going into a new iteration of the game. It looks clean, it's smooth, very nice looking UI overall, and I can't complain too much about that. One of the things they did not do though with the UI, and it was called for in 17, and I think may well have been part of 15 as well as being asked about, is the commodity page with the language variability and also the names under the icons or with the icons in relation to the crops. Some people get confused by the icons and just having a noun under the wheat or the corn or whatever might make it a little bit easier. That's a minor thing. I don't think it's something that necessarily we should hold Giants account to and say, hey, look, it's a poor game because of this. But it is one thing that perhaps they could look at improving for Farming Simulator 21 in relation to just making that UI that little bit better, even if it's just a hover. So on the graphical icon at the top of the commodities page, you hover your mouse icon or your controller icon above the maize icon, and it comes up and tells you it's corn or maize. Just quality of life type feature. The thing with the mod hub, with the UI and the mod hub that is a bit of an issue is, unfortunately, while they have a very good system in relation to showing when there are new mods in each area, so if you're looking at the general page in Farming Simulator 19, you will see either little green circles or orange circles with numbers in it, which is to basically indicate whether there are new mods in that group or updated mods in that group. So for instance, you might be looking at the medium tractors and you've got two green, the number 2 in a little green circle. Well, that immediately tells you that there are 2 new tractors in that group that have recently been added to the mod hub. Great, makes it nice and simple. What isn't so good with this system is once you've actually been in there, you might go in there and have a look and they've released a new class tractor upcoming in the DLC. Then you go in there, have a look at the tractor, you look at the details and you go, oh, that's just not for me, I'm not going to download it. You come back out. That green number will still be on that tractor for some period of time. I think it's a couple of weeks, if not longer. And that's just something that, again, it's a quality of life thing. Once you've been there and had a look at that tractor and you've acknowledged the fact that, yeah, oh, there's a new mod and you've gone and had a look at it, clear off the number from the tractor. I mean, it is just so difficult sometimes when you do go on the mod hub and you go, right, I'm going to have a look for new mods. And you go, even if you go to the new mods tab or the updated mods tab, and you look at the mods there and you think, oh, look at all these new mods. Well, they're actual mods that have been released for the last 2 weeks. It's really simple. Once you click into it and have a look at it, I'm not saying when you look at the higher level version of it as in the icon in the store, but if you actually click into the mod itself and look at the details as if you're going to download it and install it, then clear off that tag saying it's a new mod. We've already seen it. We know it's a new mod. Clear it off. Just quality of life, guys. Things like that, little things. The other thing in relation to the mod hub, well, it's not actually the mod hub itself, but in the mod hub, we have a good grouping system available. There are small tractors, medium tractors, large tractors, combine harvesters, forage harvesters, plows, cultivators, all that sort of stuff. They're in nice little groups. So if you want to go find yourself a new plow, you go into the ancillary section, you go into the plows, and all the plows are listed there. Great, works really well. The problem, however, when you launch yourself into one of your games, your save games, or you want to make a new save game, is all the mods aren't grouped in the same way. Now, surely there must be some way that you could integrate the mod hub as it currently stands into that loading screen, so as when you're actually going in and setting up a game, or you're going into a game, you can actually go, okay, well, I want to add a new large tractor to my mod list. Instead of having to scroll through every single mod you may have installed. Now, some of us have hundreds of mods installed. Is that the right way of doing it? Who knows? That's another discussion for another time. But you've got to scroll through every mod you've got there that's in your mods folder to try and find that particular tractor. Whereas it would be much easier, and again, another quality of life improvement, if when you actually go into that game, instead of bringing it up, you go in there and you go in and you can check. You can have a list of all the ones that are actually enabled for that save game, but then you can also go and have a look at all the large tractors and go, right, I want to choose that tractor and add that to my game for this save game session. That would be a fantastic improvement. Hopefully it's something they'll bring into the next version of the game, if there is a new version of the game. The other thing, we're talking about the UI, there are a couple of really poor design decisions. In Farming Simulator 15, I think it was, they brought in the option where you could use, or 17 certainly, you could use the scroll wheel of your mouse, for instance, to increase the number of animals you're going to buy or sell at the animal points. For some stupid reason, some very poor decision maker or person in Giants decided that this was no longer convenient in Farming Simulator 19. So in Farming Simulator 19 by default, if you want to go buy 500 sheep, you got to go click that buy button 500 times. And this is just stupid. This is probably, even though it's very small, it's one of the more stupid decisions that Giants have made in this release of the game. Why is it stupid? Well, in today's day and age, there is no need to be doing that sort of stuff. And again, that's another one that GTX has brought out, but he very quickly brought out a mod where all of a sudden you just hold, instead of holding down the return key every time you want to buy a button, you hold it down for a little bit of time, and all of a sudden it starts counting up automatically and gets faster and faster as you hold that key down for longer. Not hard to implement, guys. Again, quality of life stuff. Did anyone at Giants actually sit there and go, oh, well, what's going to happen if the player goes and buys 250 sheep for his sheep pen? Well, I'm going to go in there and just click my button. Oh, this is quite boring and repetitive. Guys, maybe we should make a change here and just make it so we can use the scroll wheel again. I don't think anyone tested it. I mean, don't get me started on QA. We'll get to there soon enough. And I really think, again, they dropped the ball. And this is the thing. There's a lot of these small things that have let Giants down, in my opinion, as to the quality of this game. All right, next we're going to talk very briefly about multiplayer. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in multiplayer because that is all a variable in relation to the server you're using, whether you're using a dedicated server, all that sort of stuff. But needless to say, Giants have done a pretty good job of making multiplayer available to us, and that's okay. Now, one of the problems though, and one of the things that was mentioned very early on in development, that they were trying to remove the synchronization for players, and that's one of the things that gets the irrits of many players in relation to multiplayer. You can be sitting there and you can be playing the game, and all of a sudden someone else, one of your mates wants to come in and join the multiplayer session, and then you got to sit there for anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes waiting for the game to sync up. Now, Giants have come out and said since that it's not possible, it's just the way it works, and you've got to sync the experience and all the settings and all that sort of stuff. I understand that. But my concern is, well, if that's the case, why don't we have that same problem with every other game? So, for instance, if I was in, say, let's talk about Uplay and the Division 2. If I'm running around the Division 2 and going around and cleaning up all the bad guys from Washington, all of a sudden one of my mates wants to join, we invite him to the group, and he comes in, we don't have to sit there and be paused and wait for him to turn up. We can continue on our merry way, taking out the bad guys, and then when he's actually got all the data, he actually joins in the game, and then it continues on. Now, we're talking about a game that uses a lot more high-end PC capability in relation to the fact that it's so busy doing all the calculations and everything else for the game, far more, I would imagine, than what Farming Simulator 19 would ever do, yet you don't have to sit there and be waiting to synchronize for other players. So I think it's more the fact that, not that it's needed, it's more the fact that Giants are unable to get the coding right for their own game. Now, will that change? Who knows? But I think it's certainly something they probably should have looked a little bit further at. But then maybe on the flip side, Giants don't think multiplayer is that big of a concern to us, and they think that's quite a minor thing for the players to go through. They may be right. Personally, for me, it doesn't bother me too much, although it is very annoying if you're going around part of the map in a truck at 80 miles an hour, 80 kilometers an hour, and all of a sudden you're syncing with your mate who's coming to join you on the server, and then by the time the syncing's over, all of a sudden you find yourself in a ditch or in a tree or something like that. I mean, my driving's bad enough as it is, but I can use that as an excuse. So it's probably one of the things they probably need to tidy up a little bit. The other thing possibly, again, and it comes back to what I was talking about, the mod hub and the game session earlier, making it a little bit easier to set up with the mods and stuff like that. I think there can be improvements there. Currently, you set up your dedicated server, go to the website, and you can download the mods from there. I still don't think it's quite as smooth as it could be. I think some more development could go into it, because effectively it is exactly the same as what it was for 17. I'm not sure what it was like on 15, but certainly it's exactly the same as 17. So I don't think they did any work on it really, to be honest, apart from putting the actual new engine into it as part of the actual core. So I think the multiplayer aspect of it, while it's okay, certainly improvements can be made to it, but I don't think multiplayer is a significant problem area or anything in relation to Farming Simulator 19. Okay, so now we've talked about the game in general, the UI, multiplayer, all that sort of stuff. Now let's actually get stuck into some of the issues or things with the actual game itself. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of people's problems within FS19, and it's not just necessarily always about the problems. But certainly I think it's more important to sort of refer back to what issues there are with the game, how they could be improved, or what they could have done to improve the game. And hopefully, although it's very unlikely, someone at Giants may watch this video. And look, don't get me wrong, the whole purpose of this video is not to have a rant at Giants and say you're a bunch of idiots or anything else like that. Far from it. The whole idea of this video is basically to point out where I think the game came from, where I think the game is now, and also where can the game go from here. And certainly I will be doing an update video very soon in relation to what I would like to expect in Farming Simulator 21. Now, we did discuss it with coming from 17 to 19, but I think this time for Giants, it's much more imperative they do a lot more in going from 19 to 21 than just doing some pretty new graphics and adding in some horses. But we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, so with the game itself, again, I've already spoken about it briefly. I think one of the big problems is the lighting changes and the shadows. That takes away the aspect of the game for me in a big way. It just does not look and feel right. As I said before, now the Seasons mod has been released by Realismus Modding. It's fantastic. I really like the color saturation that's applied when you have the Seasons mod running and all that sort of stuff. But without running some shaders, all that sort of stuff in the game just looks, it's not cartoony, but it's not real. It's just too flushed. It's just too embossed. It's embellished. It just doesn't look right. And I know there's a lot of people that haven't taken up the game and they haven't modded for the game for part of this reason. We'll get into the modding and all that a little bit later, but I can't really talk too much about that because I don't mod, so I can only go by what others have told me. But yeah, I do think the look and the shadows and all that sort of stuff, it just detracts from it. I mean, yeah. But anyway, I mean, I'm not going to go on about it because I don't want to get stuck in one area, but it's certainly something that should be looked at and improved going forward. One of the other things that's annoyed some people is there's inherent in-game support for the Tobii eye tracker, but there's no support for VR this time around. Now, personally for me, I don't really care. I don't have Tobii eye tracker. I don't have VR, so neither really bothers me. But in today's day and age, there are a lot of people now that are playing VR and like VR-assisted games, and there has been no option for that to date. Perhaps that's something they may look at for 21, but certainly not having it for 19. Did it affect their sales or whatever else? I don't think so. It would have been nice to have. There's a lot of competitors out there now in the game market that have VR games coming out, and I think they missed an opportunity possibly. I think the game, if you had a good VR setup, would be quite nice to play in VR. Not that I've done that, but I think this would be a game that would be well suited to VR. So hopefully in the next iteration of the game, we'll see that as part of the base default game as well. As I've also alluded to earlier in the video, steering wheel support was an absolute mockery upon release, and it took a good 2 to 3 patches to fix all of it up. Myself, I have a G27 from Logitech. Out of the gate, didn't work. Second patch, or first patch, worked a little bit better, but not 100%. Second patch, it worked a lot better, and then on from there. Now, a good friend of mine, Grizzly Bear Sims, he had problem with his all the way up until the third patch, and basically got him to the point where he just has stopped playing the game altogether. So that's the unfortunate aspect of a company bringing out a game where the expectation was set that, well, in the previous iteration of this same game, everything worked fine after a period of time. And yeah, look, I mean, there were problems with 17 when it first released. Let's not be silly about it. We know that. Nowhere near as bad, I think, as what 19 has experienced, but there were still issues there. But if you've got, coming from Farming Simulator 17 to Farming Simulator 19, for instance, you know all the steering wheels you've supported at the end of Farming Simulator 17's life. You're coming into Farming Simulator 19. The coding shouldn't be that much different going forward. They didn't change all... They've changed the graphic rendering and all that to the game, but the actual coding of the back end of the game is no different. So that should have come in seamlessly. Now, the other question is, though, did they actually test the steering wheels? I don't think they did. Because if they had someone testing the steering wheels prior to it even getting to anywhere near release, they would have found, oh, hang on, guys, our steering wheels aren't working. Oh, hang on, guys, the shifters for this particular steering wheel set aren't working. Oh, the pedals aren't working for this set. I know it's hard. You don't expect a company to have every single hardware iteration that's out there. But for this sort of game, your Logitech steering wheels, your G27, your G29, all those sorts of stuff, your thrustmasters, there are basic ones you're going to have. I mean, for crying out loud, the own Logitech Farming Simulator 17 steering wheel and the Cytec control panel had issues upon release for Farming Simulator 19. I mean, I've got the Cytec control panel. I had trouble mapping buttons. Now, this is their own stamped product that came out, and you couldn't get that working. Put some guys on testing and test some things properly. That will alleviate a lot of these problems. AI performance. Well, yes, there's AI in Farming Simulator 19 by default. Is it any good? No. It's no better than what it was in 17. In fact, arguably, it's probably worse. A lot of times you go to put the AI on a field that's got some grass on it. It will mow 5-10 meters of it, say it's done, or it'll do 5-10 meters of it, and then turn around and then go back. It's abhorrent. It's no good. Do some work on it. By now, it should be more akin to the AI, the vehicle AI, or whatever the mod is it's called. It's basically the dumbed down version of Courseplay, where you can actually set your combine to do a header row and all that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff should be in the game. I think, and the more I look at what's happened in the transitions from 17 to 19, I think Giants were lazy. I think they were resting on the laurels of 17 and thinking, oh yeah, all we've got to do is make it look a bit more pretty, put everything in there from Farming Simulator 17, we'll add the horses and add some barley, or add some oats, and we're done. And I think that's really what they've done. There's been no forethought. There's been nothing really exclusive and really out-of-the-box experience that's been an enhancement to the genre. And it's just very disappointing. They're spending all this time, and I really don't want to get started on this, but they seem like they spent more time while they were going through doing the development of Farming Simulator 19. I think they were spending more time developing their esports league than what they were in developing Farming Simulator 19. That again, that's my opinion, but I think they have. I think they've really lost it. They have lost the fact that the bulk of their consumers want to play this as a simulation game, not an arcade game, and not a bloody esports game. Oh, the esports thing really has grated me, and I really think Giants are probably starting to lose the plot. If they think they're going to go up and compete with the likes of CSGO and StarCraft and all that for an esports league, you got your heads in the sand, guys. It's not going to get that big. Yeah, you've got a core following. You're going to have a few people playing it, but it's not going to be as big as what you think it is. And while you are pushing it and you want it to succeed, it's only got a very short shelf life, I think. Hey, I'm happy to stand corrected in 2 years' time if the esports league's the biggest thing in the world. It won't be. I'm pretty confident. And it's an absolute hit to the face of everyone that loves this game and has supported you all along. You've spent so much time in development in setting up this silly esports league and this new map and game mode, instead of actually concentrating on fixing your damn game and fixing all the problems you've got and making the game actually better. Yes, I'm getting ranty because it really irks me. It's something they shouldn't have even bothered with, or if they should have done that, they should have done it with someone else. I mean, it's quite obvious this game was not bloody tested by anyone prior to it being released. And that is what really irks me. Half of the tractors didn't work. For instance, the Big M, you couldn't fuel the thing on game release. So you'd buy the Big M, go and stick it on Ravenport, and go think, first thing I'm going to do, certainly for me, that's the first thing I'm going to do, go out with a Big M. Right, I've mowed a couple of fields, going to go back and fill it up with fuel. You can't fill it up with fuel. I mean, how can you not pick that up in QA testing prior to release? You should have had a checklist. I mean, look, I've done QA testing. I've done a lot of QA testing over various things, including military software and all that sort of stuff. You have a checklist. The first thing you're going to do, right, we've got 38 tractors we've got to test. Right, can you get in the tractor? Yes. Can you turn the tractor on? Yes. Can you lower the 3-point hitch? Yes. Can you fill it with fuel? No. Oh, that's a bit of a problem. We need to get that fixed. Send it back to the developers. 2 minutes later, oh, yeah, sorry, missed a line of code. Fixed. Really? I mean, that is what is frustrating about this game. Now, I can forgive someone for a gaming company for missing a couple of small things. But things like that is a core feature of every piece of equipment in the game, and you failed. The New Holland combine harvester. You'd lower the header and it gets stuck and it wouldn't go anywhere. One of the biggest main features of Farming Simulator 19, one of the biggest combines in the game, and you can't use it. Who tested it? Did anyone test it? Or were you too busy trying to test the new John Deere equipment? This is what the problem is. There was no QA done, or if there was QA done, it was very poor and there was no significant testing done. And I'll get onto that a little bit later. But you have failed on that aspect. Now, as I'm led to believe, I think they actually announced it at one point when they were getting so much grief about it, they were increasing their QA staff because they only had 2 staff doing QA. You guys are supposed to be releasing a AAA level game and you got 2 people in your QA department? Seriously. Anyway, all right. Yes, I'm getting heated. I'm going to chill. I'm not going to continue on in that vein. I'm going to move on to the next thing. But yes, AI performance was very poor. Let's go back to that one. All right. What else have we got? Game staples such as GPS, Follow Me, and AI extensions should be part of the core game by now. I agree entirely. That's what a couple of my guys in my channel and that have said. It should be part of the common part of the game. GPS. You should have a GPS system in there. Why not? Laziness? I think that's it. Follow Me. How hard is it to put Follow Me into the game? How many people out there do you think use Follow Me in their games? I reckon majority of them. Because when you're going to go and you're going to drive across the other side of the field and you're playing a solo game and you've got 4 bits of equipment to take over there, so you've got a tractor to go over there with a plough, then a seeder and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you might want to drive over there and then drive back and all that sort of stuff. That's okay. But a lot of people may also want to take a couple of bits of equipment over there. They may want to take a combine harvester, plus a tractor with an overloader, plus a semi-trailer over to the far field to do their harvest in one go. Easy way to do it, use Follow Me. Set the combine up, go across, set the tractor up, put him on follow of the combine, set the truck up to follow the tractor, and away you go. How hard would that be to implement in the game? There's lots of these things you could have implemented already into the game. Now, a lot of people have said seasons should be implemented in the game. I don't disagree with that. However, I know that's a lot more work to implement seasons because seasons is not a simple mod. It's a very complex mod. And congrats to Realismus Modding for their 17 version and also their 19 version. But you can certainly look at doing it. Perhaps it should be a must-have for Farming Simulator 21. Unless, of course, you've got an agreement with Realismus Modding that you won't incorporate that into the game. Well, that's fine. I can understand that because it is Realismus Modding that have come up with that and it's their IP. I have no problem with that at all. I certainly also wouldn't mind if it was a $5 add-on. So to have that with the game, when the game is launched, you pay $5 extra and you get that by default with the game, fine, do it. Give $4.50 to Realismus Modding for every copy of it that's sold on top of the actual purchase of the game. Easy peasy done. Okay? Because that is a fantastic mod that has not only enhanced your game, it has saved your game. There are many of us I know that would not be playing this game if it wasn't for not only all the other mods, but particularly Seasons. Seasons gives you that depth of gameplay that we all like. And again, it comes more to the simulation aspect of it, more so than the arcade style of it, which is what you tend to be looking to be heading towards. And again, I'll come back to that a little bit later, probably. So yeah, a lot of this stuff, hopefully the smaller stuff, should be part of the game. We shouldn't have to be waiting 6 months for a modder to get it out. And I mean, look, that's okay. But like GPS, for instance, that was made by the guys that are actually overdoing cattle on crops now. Okay, so they weren't going to come back and redo GPS. So another modder by the name of Wopster, he's created his own. I don't think it's anywhere near as good. I'm not using it. But why can't that be in the game? Why can't you add that extra functionality into the game to make your game that much better? Maybe you'll think about it for 21. Crop destruction. Now, I can't confirm this because I should have gone in and tested it, but I have been made aware that with the crop destruction natively, certainly it doesn't work on the grass. That's been removed, and that I liked it destroying the grass. Even though I like looking after my grass, I liked it destroying the grass. It was extra realism. It should work on any foliage on the map, as in it should also take out the weeds and the bushes and stuff as well, as best it possibly can. But also should also work on all growth stages. Apparently it doesn't work on all the growth stages, and that's very poor, if that's actually the case. And I think I seem to recall that, yeah, that's right. If you've got the second growth stage of corn, for instance, you drive over the field, it doesn't impact the field, as in doesn't impact the crop, doesn't leave any tyre marks. I mean, if you're going to have it, you're going to have it. If you're not, don't put it in there. The other thing, update bugs as soon as you identify a bunch of bugs. It took far too long for you to put out your first 3 patches, Giants, to fix the game when it was released. Was it the second patch or the third patch? You waited until you had the DLC. I think it was for the John Deere to be released. Take a note of what other developers are doing. As soon as they find they've got a game breaking problem or whatever else, they release a patch. Yeah, okay, it's a minor inconvenience to us, but we'd appreciate the fact that you're actually trying to make the game better as quick as you can. So let's go back to the steering wheel instance. All right, all of a sudden you found, okay, we've now got to fix in. We can fix 4 of the most common steering wheels. Put the patch out. Don't wait till you can do 8 of them. Simple things like that. You can make the game and your reputation so much better. One of the other things as well is many people have said, well, perhaps better weather and effects, or perhaps even incorporate seasons into the base game. We just talked about that. But certainly providing better weather would be an enhancement if you're not going to improve seasons. Doing things like wear and tear on buildings, for instance. So having the option to have the farmhouse or a barn slowly wears away as well. And after, say, 3 or 4 years, you've got to go to the lumber mill and get some timber and then come back and repair it. Extra added gameplay features like that. You've put it in for the tractors to have wear and tear, which is great. Why not add that little bit extra step? And then you're also then prompting people to actually do a bit of lumber work and all that sort of stuff. There's all that sorts of things you can be improved on. Sound, well, sound on release of the game was appalling. Let's just put it out there. It was crap. And the unfortunate part was you guys dug your heels in and said, no, the sound's really good, the sound's really good, the sound's really good. Well, it wasn't. We all know that, and you know that, and you just had your head stuck in the sand until eventually you went, oh yeah, we're going to rework the sound. And you did. Great. The only problem is, it's still not as good as what it was in 17. Where is the sound for when the tractor goes between driving on asphalt to gravel to concrete to grass to mud? Those little bits of extra sound make all the difference, and it's not there. Crops and interactions. Big missed opportunity with orchards and other farming options. Pure farming does lead that way. Rice farming, orchards, having to run an irrigation system, all that sort of stuff. You really missed it. You really missed it. And I do hope that you really take that and grasp that for 21. But your crop variation is very stale and boring. Yes, okay, you brought in sugarcane. Yes, we've got cotton, and then all the rest of them are basic cereal type crops. Okay? There's nothing outstanding there for us to do. Bring it in. Change your way. Get something in there. Animals should be eating and capable of being placed in pastures, not just small pens. Why can't you make it that you have a placeable animal pen where all the features of it are placeable, and you just assign a field for the animals to use as their pasture? Then you magically have a fence appears around it. It's not that hard to do programmatically. You then place the feed troughs. You then place the buy point. You've got all this stuff that's placeable. Why not enhance it and just make it that much better? That would be a fantastic addition to the game. But no, we're just stuck with using these small pens and putting 500 cows in this small pen that wouldn't fit 50. But hey, small steps. But maybe for the next iteration, you'll fix that. Horses, look, I've already been over the horses. I'm just going to put a big WTF. I don't know what you're thinking. It's stupid. It really has no point to it whatsoever. And it really, really, from my opinion, is very, very poor. Now, I know others are going to disagree with me and they enjoy it. But, hey, you could have done a lot more. Cows, sheep and pigs. Are you scared of Peter? Come on, let's get it in. Let's use it for the beef. I've already covered over this, I know, but let's use the animals and do some proper farming with them. I mean, and the dog. What the hell were you thinking with the dog? The dog was supposed to be interactive and help. Yeah, okay, it's interactive. You go up to the dog and you throw a ball and it runs around a little bit, but it's useless. There was such hype about that dog and about the fact that hopefully it could sit in the cab with you and all that sort of stuff, and you failed to deliver. I think the dog is probably the second biggest joke with Farming Simulator 19, second only to the other four-legged creature you brought into it. The other thing to do as well is incorporate the ability to buy used equipment. Why can't we have used equipment as well? So you have the AI, they're actually doing their fields and stuff like that. Occasionally have an option to buy second-hand equipment at the store. A special comes up. There's some New Holland tractors or some second-hand New Holland tractors now available. Certainly would suit well for those that are playing the start from scratch type mode you incorporated. Okay, certainly something that should have been incorporated, I think, as well. All right, let's get some general comments about Farming Sim 19, and then we can close off because it's a rather long episode. And I do apologise for that in many ways. And hopefully you've stuck through this far. All right. Probably the biggest thing for you Giants to take back in relation to any feedback as far as I'm concerned is listen to your players. Listen to the YouTubers. Listen to your modders. Incorporate them into testing. Not just one or two popular YouTubers. And I'm not having a go at who we're talking about in particular. But the unfortunate part when you only have a couple of guys that are sort of integral as to part of your team, as in your promotional team, is they may or may not, realistically, but there certainly is a perception that they just become yes men. They are in a position where they're financially beholden to you as a company, and they feel as though they're obligated to not necessarily point out flaws or problems within your game. Now, I'm not alluding to the fact that this is what I know or have heard. I'm just making a general observation. It may not be the case, but I have a feeling that that's what it would lead to. What I would like to see you do is open it up to a lot more, particularly your modders and YouTubers. And I'm not saying for me. I mean, it's got nothing to do with me generally. But get it to those that are actually integrally part of your game. Get it to the modders that are actually building the mods to support your game. Now, there's a lot of conjecture about the fact that people say, oh, well, without the modders, Giants wouldn't have a game, blah, blah, blah. And to a point, that's true. Modders make your game not necessarily to actually make it to play it, but they make your game with its longevity. People would not be continuing to play your game for a long period of time without the modders. The influence of the modders with all the variable stuff they bring to the game in the mod hub and outside of the mod hub, to be honest, gives the player the flexibility to play the game the way they want to play it. They're not locked to only having certain brands. They're not locked to only having certain characteristics and performance criteria to a tractor or to an implement. That brings the flexibility and the freestyle to the simulation and the arcade version of this game to the people, the players. Have a true beta period. True beta period. Open it up. Get 150, 200 players in. Sign an NDA. Get them in to play the game early and really throttle it. Test it properly. I know it's hard. I know, having been a tester and a QA tester, some aren't as good as the others. And you'll certainly get some players that are coming in and all they want to do is they want to play the game. They won't give you any feedback at all. I understand that. But you can be a little bit more selective. Find those that are actually willing to actually really send you some positive feedback or negative feedback and tell you what needs to be done. Tell you what the problems are. Tell you what's not working. All that sort of stuff. I feel, and I'm only saying this because this is what I feel. I don't necessarily know this as fact. You did a closed beta where it was just staff and family and friends of staff. you didn't open it up to some of the core people you really should have had testing it from the outset. It was apparent on a couple of the early videos where you had the live streams with a couple of our YouTubers that you found problems that were inherent in the game at that point in time that were seemingly a surprise to you. Well, they weren't a surprise to us as soon as we started the game up because they were straight away there. If you had a decent beta testing period, and if you had a decent amount of QA testers and QA staff, a lot of the problems would never have got out there. This, of course, is contrary only by one thing. The only thing that may have changed this and may have actually forced your hand was that you may have actually had a decent beta period. You may have actually had a QA staff that were good enough to actually pick it all up and sort of say, well, look, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. But you're beholden to your publisher who said, no matter what, you are putting this game out on this date at this time. And if that's what's happened, then that's very poor on focus. I understand the reality of it. They just want to make money. But it's also very poor reflection on you guys as well as a company, because the game was not ready for shipping when you shipped it. In no way was it ready to go. And that is the bottom line. You released the game far too early. It wasn't finished. It wasn't complete. It wasn't embellished. It wasn't polished. It wasn't even anywhere near ready to be polished. There was too many issues with it, and it wasn't tested thoroughly enough. And that is the problem with Farming Simulator 19. An example of that, consistency on the mod approvals and stuff like that as well. It was an issue in 17, it's an issue in 19. There was a particular fairly good and big modding group that put forward a mod into the mod hub for testing, and Giants came back and said, no, we're not going to approve it due to there's no doors and windows that are operating on the tractor. You guys don't even put opening doors and windows on your tractors, so how can you hold a modder to that standard? This is the problem. It was a problem in 17 and seems to still be a problem in part in 19. If you're going to be that inconsistent with the way you're dealing with your modders, they're going to leave. They're not going to come back. That's already happened. I know lots of decent modders that have not come back to 19 because of all this rubbish. You need to have consistent and stick to the consistent rules and regulations you're going to have set for mods. If that's what you're going to have, that's fine. Keep yourselves to the same standard and keep everyone to the same standard. But the other problem with that is too, by doing that and being too inflexible and not working with your modders, many of them won't bother releasing to the mod hub. They'll just go out to the third-party sites. And that's a risk for your players because they have to get these mods from, well, they think they have to get these mods from third-party sites and open themselves up to possibly downloading malicious code and everything else. And I don't like to see that. I don't recommend that to anyone, but that's the reality of it. But if you're going to have that sort of thing like happened with that particular mod and you're being so hypocritical, then you're going to knock the nails into your own coffin for this game. All right, that's it. That's my state of the game. I will finish though with this summary. While the game when it was launched was very poor and it shouldn't have been launched, as I just said, when it was launched, 12 months on basically, the game is in a pretty good state. Why is it in a good state? It's not because of Giants, but it's because of the modding community, and it's because of the YouTubers, and it's because of those that support the game. It's because of the community of Farming Simulator 19 that makes this game the game that it is. Yes, Giants have to produce the base game and get it all working, but if it wasn't for the modders in developing all this stuff, if it wasn't for Realismus Modding for developing seasons, if it wasn't for GTX for developing the Easy Development mod add-on and the Road Train pack for 17 and the Bale storage packs, and if it wasn't for Vertex Designs for doing all the stuff they've been doing, if it wasn't for Custom Modding for doing the tractors that they do, the game would not be as successful as what it currently is. Giants, my final message to you is if you want this game, if you want this genre to continue to succeed, you need to do a couple of things. You need to invest in decent QA. You need to invest in decent testing. You need to stop looking at just investing into the esports league and start looking at fixing the problems with your game and enhancing the game. The John Deere DLC was an insult to everyone. Yes, you brought out some John Deere. Great. You then brought out the Homer DLC. Yeah, that was pretty poor. The class DLC is yet to release, but it looks pretty damn good. Okay, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a class fan, but it does look pretty good. But what you should be doing with these DLCs as well is looking at bringing something innovative in. Bring a new crop in. Bring some irrigation in. Bring orchards in. Bring coffee in and a special coffee harvester. Do all that sort of stuff. Make the game more interesting. Improve it. Don't just sit there resting on your laurels, stagnating with the same stuff day in and day out. I have a feeling the next DLC coming out after the Class 1 is going to be another John Deere one, just with some equipment. Yes, I know the Class DLC, you've got 35 plus pieces of equipment, but there is no map. People want maps as well. But I will also say, your map design and build suck. Get someone in there that actually can build a decent map. And again, that's my opinion. But I don't think your maps have been any good at all. Unfortunately, we sit in an environment today where everything is driven by the dollar, and I really do think, and I would like to think, it's not entirely up to Giants and Giants' fault the way the game was released when it was released. I would like to think that it's going to improve. I would really like to think that a lot of things I've spoken about here will be improved and implemented possibly in Farming Simulator 21. Anyway, that is it. Again, these are my opinions, or the opinions of those that have been expressed to me, both in the DuckZorly gaming channel and in other forums and other media. I do enjoy playing the game. I played over 3,500 hours on Farming Simulator 17. I'm in a few hundred hours now in 19, and I'm actually enjoying it more and more. I'm really enjoying the seasons aspect of it. I do really wish Giants all the best and success with the ongoing 19 series, but then also in the next series they bring out. I do hope you enjoyed the video. I do hope you enjoyed the rant, what there was. But again, don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-Giants. I'm just anti some of the stuff they've done and the way they release things. I think overall the game is great, and I really do enjoy playing it, and I hope you enjoy playing it as well, and I certainly do enjoy bringing it to all of you to watch as well. Anyway, that's my state of the game for Farming Simulator 19 by Giants and Focus Interactive. Leave a like if you liked the episode. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I've said in the video? Do you disagree? Keep them neat, keep them polite, and we can interact down below. And of course, if you're not already a subscriber to the channel and you want to hear more rants or see some occasional gameplay, feel free to subscribe, and don't forget to press that alarm notification icon so you're made aware when more videos are available on the DuckZorly gaming channel. I'm DuckZorly. I wish you all the best in your farming endeavors with Farming Simulator 19, and we'll see you on the flip side. And just remember, no matter whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night, no matter where you are in the world, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and we'll see you again very, very soon back here at DuckZorly Gaming. See you all later. Bye.